it's the same thing here. You're playing for something bigger than yourself. You're not playing for just yourself. You're playing for the guy next to you, but you're playing for the city. You're playing for the competency of the fans and the respect of the fans and the respect of the organization.
Coach, how do you describe the Celtics 76ers rivalry? I mean, these are some of the oldest cities in this beautiful country that we live in. The bell being cracked over there, John Hancock being buried here. I mean, we could go into the history
Dr.
of
J
details.
choking Larry.
Yeah.
What does this rivalry mean?
I learned more about that watching Celtic City, because I think watching that dynamic
Past.
there. Yeah. So I think that runs deeper than maybe I understood, that particular one. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, let's do some dude talk. What makes Joe Embiid so good?
I mean, the thing I appreciate about him is I'm pretty sure he was a soccer goalie. So I think his
I
footwork.
believe that is correct.
Yeah, his footwork, his hand-eye coordination.
Imagine him in a goal.
His timing and his angles. Like that, studying some of those guys brought me back to like the building connections on different sports, right? Like Tim Duncan being a swimmer. I think Hakeem Olajuwon was a goalie. And so like what can teach you from one sport, you can transition into making you. And that kind of like, that was one of the only advantages I had when I went to college was I wasn't great. I didn't have a lot of talent, but because of my soccer background, I was conditioned really well. And that helped me defensively take on angles and footwork and changing directions. And so always fascinated by how seeing what a goalie does and how he translate that. Jokic is like that with water polo. If you watch water polo, you're essentially watching Jokic post.
That's exactly how.
Wow.
That's how he plays.
Yeah.
He plays.
Was he a water polo player?
Yeah. Like you can tell how he palms the ball, how he one-touch passes it when it's midair, how he almost embraces people draping on him because like you're having to do both of those things. And like watching him is like watching a water polo there. So
I've never put that together. That's the first time I ever heard that.
Yeah. So like when I watch Jokic, I see water polo. When I watch Embiid, I see how his soccer background gave him the footwork, the angles, the hand-eye coordination, the timing to be so effective for such a big guy.
Yeah. What about James Harden?
Watching him play is like listening to like Moonlight Sonata. Like never gets sped up, plays at his own pace.
Always.
Yeah, always.
Smooth. Knows how to make a basket when he needs.
Knows how to just get to just do.
Challenges those rule books too.
Yeah.
I like that.
Does what he does.
All right, let's jump into the Celtics, Jackie. Break
into
this
these
down.
Celtics, these
2022 Celtics.
57-25. Went into the All-Star break with the best record in the NBA at 42-17. Coming off a finals loss the year before to Golden State. Added some new key pieces. Malcolm Brogdon, Gallinari, Blake Griffin. This was the first full season with Derek White after bringing him in the year before. Re-signed Luke and Sam in the offseason. And prior to this year, this will be a little foreshadowing for the game, lost the legend Bill Russell in July, which was a huge loss for the Celtics and the basketball world as a whole. And of course, you got the Jays, Jaylen, Jayson from the year before. So we're gelling coming into this year.
And
Marcus
we got
Smart still there.
And we got a new head coach.
And we got a new head coach, our main man.
What was it like being called to be the 19th coach for the historic Boston Celtics?
I mean, that's kind of where my faith came into play. It just felt like it was a true gift from God, really. Like it was like, I don't belong here. You go through a little bit of like, how the hell did I get here? / I don't belong here. But I was put here, by God. And so like that's really the only way to describe it. Yeah.
Can you describe to people, our viewers that are from different cities, how the Celtics are different than any other NBA franchise?
I think it starts with the history. It starts with the tradition. It starts with some of the greatest players to have ever played the game. And then it goes to the city. Like, there's not much difference between how Hugs motivated us the year we went to the Final Four and what it's like to be in Boston. I think the only way for a team to maximize itself, not just in 1 year, but in a series of years, is like we took on the identity of West Virginia people, the gritty, the hard-nosed, the blue-collar. Like he was very adamant on like playing for something bigger than yourself. And it's the same thing here. You're playing for something bigger than yourself. You're not playing for just yourself. You're playing for the guy next to you, but you're playing for the city. You're playing for the competency of the fans and the respect of the fans and the respect of the organization. And that comes with a lot of responsibility. That comes with it's not easy, but it's necessary. And it's a compliment that you get that responsibility to be able to do it. But, there's nothing better, and it's just different. And I think it's a list of all those things.
Who is the team asshole? Like the guy that, not like an asshole, but a team asshole in our world is a good guy that holds people accountable, may not do it in the most proper way, but works his dick off.
Yeah.
That kind of asshole, not like an asshole.
Yeah. I mean, let's not use that word because I don't like.
Who's a team enforcer?
Yeah. There's like a few guys. Everybody is in their own way, right? Like
vocal guy.
Like Jayson does it in one way, Jaylen does it in another way, Al does it in another way. For this season and for his time here, you have to give that to Smart, like his ability to do that. And an underlying one who ended up being one of the best people I ever coached was Blake Griffin. He became just an amazing guy, and his ability to lead in different ways, both in action and in words. And so, they all did it in their own way. But the verbal probably, came from Smart, came from Blake, came from Jaylen at times, came from Al at times. JT leads by example, like his consistency but he also leads, behind the trenches, the way how he, treats other people and his coachability. So they all do it in their own way.
Now, how did Blake do it differently?
I mean, it was actually interesting because I didn't, again, I was the intern. And then we signed Blake, and I'm like, shit, like, how am I going to coach this guy? Like, he was a former number 1 pick. Like, it's Blake Griffin. And, his humility, like, he came in, and our relationship changed, and it motivated me when he came to me. He was like, hey, how can I get better? And for a guy of his stature and where he's been, to have the foresight to be like, hey, I want to get better. Like, how can I, that was huge, right? And every time he talked and decisions that he made weren't about him. They were about, winning.
Yeah. Now, you talk about Jayson Tatum and how he treats people. That's probably a huge component of why he is who he is. What else makes him great?
Yeah. I mean, I think you live in that space of like greatness is viewed as differently. And I think another thing, when you play for the Celtics and you have a great team and you have multiple guys, you have to take on everybody's greatness, and you have to allow space in order for greatness to kind of be exemplified in different ways, right? And like Al does it in a certain way, Jaylen does it in Jaylen does it in his way, and his approach and his fierceness and his warrior mentality. Jayson does it in his consistency and his ability to just want to be coached all the time and want to be held accountable, which they all do that, right? But like, so I think that's how he does it. And, Al does it in his, the second guy that I was like, man, like, I think the hardest part about coaching that first year was when we didn't win, and I was like, man, I let Al down. Beyond all the other guys, like when you coach a guy, who knows he's got a few years, whether it's 3, 4, 5 left, you take on as we were talking about earlier, you take on the journey of each of your guys, right? And you take on the good and the tough stuff. And the hardest thing to do was knowing after that season that we didn't give Al what he deserved.
Yeah.
And that was something that we had to carry into the next season.
He's just a consummate professional. When I was there, like that was the vet pro guy.
Yeah.
Because when I was there, I went there and I hung out with you guys in like 2020. Like Jaylen and Jayson, they were still babies.
Yeah.
Al was the old guy, and he wasn't old yet. He's kind of getting old. I mean, but he was the guy that like was the example for how these guys need to be as a professional, how he came into work, how his preparation habits were, how he took care of his body, how he practiced on the court. That's all the stuff that I just saw being a fly on the wall that was his leadership.
Yeah.
Didn't say much, but when he talked, everyone listened.
Yeah. And I think everyone does it in their own way. Like I think, Jaylen, he does it with his mindset and his warrior mentality. Jayson does it kind of the way Al did it, and you need both of those. And I think from what you're talking about when you were there to now, you've transitioned into each guy does it in their own way, and you need each guy's way to be able to set the tone and like the temperature of it.